Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Sean Carrigan from Ford versus Ferrari, and I'm here chatting with Elias, and you're listening to the Man Cave Chronicles.
Welcome to another episode of the Man Cave Chronicles.
Welcome to the party, pal!
You're my boy, Blue!
Yo, Adrian!
A podcast with interviews of amazing guests from the world of pop culture.
Oh, yeah!
TV.
Nice!
Movies.
Oh, I love the movies!
Comedy and more. From deep inside the Man Cave, your host, Elias.
Sean, welcome to the cave.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
How are you, man? What's new with you?
You know, just got done working with John Cena on a commercial that's coming out soon, and you know, looking for another gig after that, and then just you know, we're all really excited about the success of Ford versus Ferrari, so we're excited to got nominated for an Academy Award.
I did see that the other day. Congrats on that.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
So, you know, I was doing some research on you, man. You've been busy, man, with your life, man. You started as a professional boxer, then you got into acting with numerous TV show appearances and movies and commercials and even stand-up comedy, man. How did you do all that?
You know, it's I've been at it for about 19 years now. Moved out to LA January 2001, and it's just been a grind and an up and down battle. You just kind of you just kind of get yourself to the point where you're ready for the opportunity to present itself. And I've been lucky enough to be ready for those opportunities when they came along. I mean, trust me, it's been a bumpy road along the way. Yeah. And I try to busy myself with as much stuff as I can to keep me flowing creatively, and the rest is history, I guess. Mm-hmm.
So I want the listeners to get to know a little bit more about you. Where are you originally from?
So I grew up in Miami. I spent time, you know, in Miami and then also in D.C. I was born right outside D.C. in Northern Virginia, and then my parents split when I was 4, and my mom and I moved down with we moved down to Florida with my sister, and I grew up in Miami, Florida, Miami Springs to be exact. Spent my summers and winters up in the D.C. area, so I always kind of felt like I had almost two homes growing up. Yeah. And then when I graduated high school, I graduated from Miami Springs Senior High School, and then I decided to go up to New York, and went to school in New York for 3 years. I wrestled in college. My two sports in high school were wrestling and boxing. Okay. I came from a boxing family. And that's how I learned how to box. My dad trained fighters, and he trained me and my brothers. And so I went up to New York, but I also wrestled, and I wanted to go to college. I knew in high school I had a set of goals that I wanted to do. I wanted to try to wrestle in college, become an All-American, and then I wanted to have let's say 5-6 pro fights. I ended up having 8 pro fights. I had an extensive amateur career from that, and then I wanted to become an actor. And I used to tell people that my senior year in high school, and I think everybody looked at me like I was crazy, because that was my game plan. My game plan, you know, because I was a pretty good wrestler in high school. My senior year, I was 28-2. Went to the state championships, and so I wanted to continue that in college. I went off to college, wrestled Division I at Manhattan College for 3 years, then transferred to George Mason University, finished out my wrestling career at George Mason University, which is right outside D.C. And then that way I was close to my dad. As soon as I graduated college, went right back into boxing, fought all over the country as an amateur boxer. Fought in the national championships, and you know, won the Golden Gloves a bunch of times, and then turned pro in '98, and I fought professionally from '98 to 2000, and I was 8-0 as a pro, and my fights were starting to get tougher, and I knew that I wanted to be an actor. That was part of the plan, you know, from when I was in high school, and so I just knew that it was time. It was time to give up, hang up my gloves, and I went back to New York for a little bit. I was having no success there. I was bouncing at a club called the China Club in New York for about 6 months up there, and was having no luck. I think the most acting work I did was I was an extra on As the World Turns, or one of those New York soap operas. And then I just decided to come out to LA and do a bunch of casting director workshops out here. There's a group of actors that were coming out to LA for a week to do all these casting director workshops. So I thought to myself, all right, I'll drive out, I'll stay for a month and see if I have any luck out there. And I drove all the way out here and did the casting director workshops for a week. And then one of the casting directors said to me, if you want to be an actor in LA, you got to stay in LA. And so I just never left.
Wow.
And slowly, as the years went on, like that group of actors that I came out here with from New York, some of them stuck around for a little while, but slowly as each year went on, they, one would go home, and then another year, another one would go home. And then sooner or later, I was the only one left out of that group. And I just never left.
No.
Just never went back.
Wow. So when you were growing up and you were telling people you wanted to be an actor, was there like certain specific movies that you were watching growing up and you're like, yes, this is what I want to go do someday?
Well, my poor mom, I used to go watch movies and I'd come reenact them for her. and she, she's a wonderful woman and has incredible amounts of patience. She's a poor lady. She'd sit there and just, and listen to me carry on about this movie, and then I'd say, and then Mom, and then Harrison Ford, Han Solo did this, and then Luke Skywalker did this, and I'd describe the movie and whatever movie it was, or I'd tell her all about Goonies and
awesome.
and so so she dealt with that for quite a while, and God bless her.
So
she knew I wanted to be an actor. And so then when I got in high school, I took drama. I took drama in high school. So not only was I into sports, but I also took drama in high school.
So when you first moved out to LA and you did the acting classes and everything, what was your first gig? Do you remember? And out in LA.
It's so funny. Believe it or not, my first acting gig in LA was, I think it was February or March 2001. I did an under 5 role, which means under 5 lines. That's what they call it, on The Young and the Restless. That was my first gig, and I played a cop, and I had some line like, we looked. I checked with the manager of the hotel. They said he's not here. We were looking for somebody. I think we were looking for a character named Shark at the time. And I didn't really know a lot about the show. And I didn't know that 13 years later I would be cast on it as Stitch, which, I was on the show for 3.5 years.
Yeah, that was actually my next question. Like after that, you went for 3.5 years. Tell us about your audition for the second time around when you got the role.
Well, the second time around, obviously this is, fast forward to, I'm sorry, let me see. It was 2001. So it was 12 years later, May 2013. I think I got the audition in April 2013. And it was only for a character that was supposed to be on for 4 episodes. It was a recurring character on for 4 episodes. And he was a medic in the Afghanistan war. And he comes to town to back up one of the other characters who is a regular, this character named Dylan, played by Steve Burton. He was new to the show as well, but they had hired him on as a series regular, and they wanted to have some to help explain his backstory, and so they brought me on to be his old army buddy, who was a medic in the war named Stitch, because I stitched a guy up, and he and I hit it off, and the episodes went really well, and then they kept giving me more episodes. I think I did like 12 or 13 episodes, until they finally offered me a contract role, which I was blown away when I got for the contract role.
Tell
So I was actually visiting New York. The day I got the call.
Oh wow!
And so, yeah, that was pretty fun.
So like, if the listeners don't know this, like the soap opera in the world, the soap opera, you guys like every day. You guys work every day, all day, right?
Yeah, it's well, your character doesn't. You don't always work every day, because sometimes you'll get loaded up. They'll shoot a bunch of episodes back to back, but it's a full day. It's when you have a few episodes that you're shooting in one day, because they'll shoot 80 something pages a day.
Yeah.
The Young and the Restless has been number one in daytime television for about 28, 29 years, maybe 30 years. I forget now as time's gone on, but they've been number one in daytime television for a very long time. And it's a fast moving train. And if you can't keep up, they'll bounce you.
Yeah.
Just because you're on contract doesn't mean they can't fire you. They'll get rid of you every 14-week work cycle. I mean, they can get you. They have 14. You're guaranteed a 14-week work cycle, and then after that, they'll keep you on. But they in their contract, they can fire you after 14 weeks.
Really?
So it's a quick pace. You need to be able to perform, and you need to have a character that the fans can relate to. Yeah. And I was lucky enough to have all those things. I think it's just the planets lined up, and that's what happened, man.
That's
so
awesome.
I was just lucky. Yeah, I was in the right place at the right time, man.
Now you've done also some commercials too, as you mentioned earlier. You just did with John Cena.
Yeah.
Tell us about the commercials.
Man, for a long time there, back in about 2003, 2004, I did a movie I was on a TV show called The Next Action Star. They thought it was going to be like the next American Idol for actors. And it was like, each week you competed in a screen test against other actors, and someone would get eliminated each episode, and until it was down to one guy and one girl won it. And then those two got to go star in their own action movie on NBC, the TV movie on NBC. It was produced by Joel Silver and NBC. And they thought it was going to be like the next American Idol, but for actors.
Yeah.
And it didn't hit with the public, I think, because the way they shot it at the time, they kind of shot it more like the Real World, where they showed a lot of the drama in the house between contestants and stuff. And I think the things that people wanted to see was they wanted to see the acting coaching that we were getting, the stunt training that we were getting, the screen tests, what went into, memorizing your lines and getting into the character. They just didn't go into that stuff enough. And I think that's why people initially tuned in, because they wanted to see what it took to be an action star. And instead, most of the episodes were a lot of the drama that was going on in the house between contestants, and people had already seen that. But so unfortunately, we didn't have the audience that they thought they were going to have, but I did end up winning it. I won it with a girl named Corinne Van Richtergroot, and her and I went off and shot this movie in Cleveland in secret, because we couldn't let anybody know who won the show. So I had a stage name that I was going by. I was going by Sonny Hopkins was my stage name, and then the character's name was Sonny Briggs. And so anyways, so we shot this movie, and I just don't think at the time in 2004 I was ready to carry an action movie, because there's a lot that goes into carrying a movie. And I think at the time I was probably, I had studied at a theater, the Beverly Hills Playhouse, and I had experiences where like I could be good in a scene, but then, to carry a whole movie is a whole different story. And to takes a lot of experience and you also have to be prepared. You know, if it's all of a sudden one day it's raining and you can't shoot outside, and you've prepared all that stuff, you got to be able to, you know, go to page 67 and shoot the stuff that's interior because it's raining outside. And that kind of preparation and you learning a script, I think, came over time for me, and I just wasn't ready for it. So the reviews came out and they weren't very kind. I think one of the reviewers said Sean Carrigan has a better chance of modeling leather jackets than ever being an actor. And so,
oh man, that's rough.
That's rough, man. That was rough. Yeah. So I took it on the chin, and thank God for commercials, because there was a time between 2004 and 2010 where you look at my IMDb, you don't see any TV or film. You don't see much of anything in between 2004 and 2010. And that's because I had a 6-year dry spell where I had to learn how to act again. I started over at a repertory theater company called Playhouse West under Bob Carnegie. And I learned the craft of acting. I learned the Meisner technique, and I really, really studied, you know, the craft of acting, and got myself to where I was ready for opportunities when they were going to present themselves again. And I never gave up. And thank God for commercials, though, because I shot a lot of commercials in the meantime to stay in the game. Because, you know, a lot of times, you know, commercial money can kind of keep you acting, keep you pursuing.
I've had a few guests on that. They love doing the commercials because, you know, sometimes you get that little dry spell. You're not getting work, and you're like, you know what, those commercials helped out a lot.
Oh, you're not kidding. I've been very lucky to do a lot of commercials and work with a lot of great directors, you know, doing it and doing them, and it's been awesome, man. But it keeps you in the game. It keeps you in the game, and, you know, in between those TV and film gigs.
So you recently had a role in Ford versus Ferrari, we mentioned earlier, which just got nominated. And how awesome was being on something like that?
It was incredible. It was one of the most exhilarating things I've ever done, was sitting in that race car, going well over 100 miles an hour around a track with professional racers, some of the best racers in the world, flying around you, like racing around you. It's just, you know, in the middle of that scrum, and it's something I'll never forget. I even told James Mangold, I told him after we shot all the Daytona stuff, I told him, I said, that was one of the most exhilarating things I've ever done in my entire life. I can't, you know, I'll never be able to thank you enough.
So tell us about your audition for that when you went in.
Well, it was interesting because I auditioned for a couple of different characters. I think I auditioned to play the doctor at the beginning, and then I think I auditioned to play the guy who comes in and is complaining about the guy who Christian Bale's working on his car, and then the guy's having trouble driving it. I auditioned to play that guy. I don't think he had a name though. So that's what I'm trying to remember the character name. But I auditioned for a couple different roles, and for some reason, they put me in the role of Walt Hansgen. And Walt Hansgen was an incredible racer. Next thing you know, I was on my way to France. The scene from France that I shot with Christian Bale didn't make it, but I did get to go to France, and I got to go to Le Mans, and I got to visit, you know, the 24 Hours of Le Mans Museum, and, you know, I got to work on set with one of the greatest actors in the world, Christian Bale, and as well as I got to work with Matt Damon as well, and those two guys were ultimate professionals and two of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. It was an incredible experience, and I got to see France for a week, and then I shot the last couple weeks we were shooting here in the States. So I was the first week, and then I was the last couple weeks here in the States. So I was first and last in the movie.
Wow.
And it was really cool, man. It's an experience I'll never forget.
Did you do any research when you got the part of Walt? Did you go online and like do some research?
Yeah, he's got an autobiography that's kind of hard to find, so I had to do some digging, but I got it, and it's Walt Hansgen, post World War II America, and he was an incredible racer. The guy didn't start racing until he was 32 years old. He grew up working at his dad's auto body shop in New Jersey. And he just was around cars his whole life. And when he was 32 years of age, he's already married, decides he's going to go and watch a race at Watkins Glen with his good buddies. He goes out, watches this race at Watkins Glen, comes back, tells his wife, I am going to become a racer. She's like, what? He's like, yeah. He goes and buys an XK 120, Jaguar XK 120, right? It's this incredible race. It's a very fast car. He buys this car, brings it home. His wife is like, what is this? He's like, well, I took a loan. I'm going to start racing this. She almost divorces him over it. She thinks he's lost his mind. 2 years later, okay, that was 1951. 2 years later, 1953, he wins Watkins Glen in a car that he built by himself, based on the Jaguar XK 120 model. So he raced that for 2 years. It was like, you know what, I can make a car that's even better than this, like this, and makes the car, wins Watkins Glen, and they called it the Hansgen Special. He wins it in the Hansgen Special. So after that, he starts getting sponsorships to race I think he raced with Briggs Cunningham for a long time. And then he had a little stint with Maserati. And then I think he went to Ford at the end. And he was an incredible racer. He won Watkins Glen 4 times, won Virginia International Raceway or Speedway, won that multiple times. He was a really excellent racer and one of the nicest guys off the track, a family man, but on the track, he was a formidable racer. And he actually beat Shelby a couple times, believe it or not, in different races. He won Sebring. The guy was he was Bridgehampton. He was an incredible guy. So what happened was, what you don't get to see in the movies, he actually died the night, or he crashes the night before Le Mans.
Wow.
And so, he was on a test.
I think he died in 1966. I think I saw something online about that. Right?
Yeah, he died the night. He didn't die right away. He went into a coma for 5 days and later died. But he died in France. And I think when his family, came out there, because what happened was he was on a test run the night before, and track was wet, and they even told him to slow down a little bit, and he started losing a little bit, so he took an escape route, which the year before in 65 was an escape route, but in 66 they had put up a different concrete barrier to protect the spectators, and he hit that head first and went into a coma. And his wife and kids, I think they were worried, they were concerned, but he had been in wrecks before. He'd been banged up before. So I think they thought that when they got there, obviously they knew it was serious, but I think a part of them didn't realize, how serious it was until they were actually there and they saw him in a coma, and he never woke up. He died 5 days later.
Wow. So in those racing scenes that you were in, how do they film those scenes exactly? Like, you're not actually driving that car.
No, but you're hooked up to a turbocharged truck, and so looks like I'm driving. I hate to show the wizard behind the curtain, but So I'm not actually driving because I'm a terrible driver, and chances are I'd probably crash. But that being said, being in that car, I felt like you feel like you're in the middle of Daytona. You feel it. And so that's probably why it was easy to act all those scenes, because you feel the roar of the engines of all the other cars racing around you, because you're hooked up to a turbocharged truck with 4 cameras on the hood, and they're catching your reaction, and I'm actually reacting to all the cars that are around me, that are racing around me, but it's very choreographed, and the guys that are racing around me, and the guy who was driving the lead truck that was driving me, some of the best racers in the world, and they were fantastic. And it like I said, it'll always be something that I'll never forget.
Would you say that's your favorite? So, would you say that's your favorite moment on the set? The racing scenes?
Yeah. It's pretty up there. It's pretty up there. I would definitely say it's one of my favorite moments, if not the favorite moment that I've ever had in my 19-year career.
So how did you, I mentioned earlier you also do stand-up comedy. How did you get into that also?
Well, like I said before, I was having a rough patch there where I wasn't working. I think I was carrying around a chip on my shoulder for a long time that the next action star thing hadn't worked out, and that I had failed, my big opportunity. I mean, because you only get so many big opportunities like that in a career, the big moments, and that's why you have to be ready for that. And I just wasn't ready. And, I think for years I kind of kicked myself that I didn't get an acting coach, or I should have worked on this a little bit more with somebody, but I just didn't know at the time. And then you feel like a failure. And so for a long time I felt like a failure. And I read Steve Martin's book called Born Standing Up.
That's a great book.
It's a great book. And I read that book, and, he talked about the thousands of times that he bombed. And I started thinking to myself, wait a minute, I understand failing. I understand that. I understand having a sense of humor and telling funny stories at family get-togethers and whatnot. Excuse me, sorry about that. I understand getting together at a big family get together and telling stories, funny stories to your friends and having them all laugh. I mean, I think I come from a family of storytellers on both my mom's side and my dad's side. And, come from the, I got Irish on both sides, and, it's a fun drinking, funny atmosphere. And I knew what that felt like. And I just thought to myself, hey, maybe I can give this a try and make a room full of strangers laugh. And so I started, and next thing you know, I started really enjoying it. And then I got some tutoring from Greg Dean and Gayla Johnson, who kind of mentored me a little bit. And they told me, you need to make a stand-up bit about failing in that movie on NBC, Bet Your Life. and so I went ahead and made a set called I'm a Failure. It's actually one of my only early sets that's still up online on YouTube. It's called Sean Carrigan, I'm a Failure. You can check it out. But the second I made fun of my failure, I think from there, I released that monkey off my back, and the chip was off my shoulder. And next thing you know, I started working again. I got a new agent, and I think in a lot of ways, comedy kind of saved my career, and that's why I still love it, and that's why I still do it.
Yeah. Do you like touring with the comedy?
Sorry, I keep coughing. Sorry about that, man.
That's okay.
I love getting out on the road. There's nothing like getting out, doing new places, seeing new people, meeting new friends. I mean, it's. I think getting out on the road can be challenging sometimes, especially if you're trying to stay in LA.
Yeah.
And book new gigs. So sometimes it's, you got to kind of pick, and I have to pick and choose the places I want to go perform at, because it's hard to get off the grid of LA when I'm trying to pursue my TV and film. But I get out there every once in a while. I've done some shows up in Canada. I've gone up to Montana a bunch of times. Get up to Fresno here and there. And done some shows back east, and so it's always fun. It's always fun to get out on the road.
A couple of years ago, you had a video that went viral. Dude, you did a Brett Favre impression.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us about that. Like, how did that happen?
Well, believe it or not, I was doing stand-up one night, and one of the other comics made a joke about me looking like Brett Favre. And then afterwards, a guy came up to me. This guy Dan Peralt. Came up to me and he goes, "Hey man, me and my buddy, we wrote a funny sketch about Brett Favre. Would you be interested in playing him?" And I thought to myself, I was like, "Hell yeah, I love Brett Favre. It'd be hilarious."
Yeah.
And it was right around the time the sexting scandal, and he was retiring and unretiring, retiring and unretiring, and so next thing you know, we shot this video, and I remember the day we started to shoot. I think it was New Year's Day. It was New Year's Day. We shot it and went to this park, and we were just, shooting this video. They had gotten some extras to come out, and I remember thinking to myself, because the director Tony Ascenda and Dan Peralt, the guy who helped write it, I remember watching these two guys work and watching how funny they were. And then next thing you know, we had this video that was really funny, and it made the rounds. I think we got like 4.5 million views or something. And they showed parts of it on ESPN. And next thing you know, we had a little viral hit on our hands. And then we didn't do anything for a couple months after that. And then slowly after that, we started doing some more stuff. I went to those guys. I said to those guys, "Hey, look, we had some success with this Brett Favre, What Should I Do video. What do you think? What do you think about like doing some more stuff?" And so then we just kept making more videos, and I produced a lot of them. And then next thing you know, I got Young on the Restless, and then Tony got something else, and then Dan went off and did something else, and we all kind of helped. All the funny videos we did kind of helped launch our careers into other branches of the industry. But we still, we're waiting for that opportunity where we all start working together again. But it's been amazing. It's been fun.
So
Go ahead. And Brett Favre saw that video too.
Yeah.
Buddy of mine did a charity event with him, and he admitted that he saw it, and he said he had a couple chuckles.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I used to love Brett Favre back in the day too. I thought he was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what's next for Sean for 2020?
Well, that's yet to be seen. Just shot a commercial the other day. I'm shooting another Dodge commercial next week, and then we'll see what happens after that. I got another film that came out called Ernesto's Manifesto that's out. And then, I've just, we'll just wait and see what the next opportunity that presents itself is.
Yeah. Just keep on grinding, right?
Yeah. And I'll be doing stand up all over town. So you can catch me at most of the nights. I'm a regular at the Ha Ha Comedy Club in North Hollywood. And I just had a show at the Comedy Store this last weekend. And so I just kind of bounce around.
That's awesome. Lastly, how can the listeners find you on social media?
They can find me at Sean Carrigan on Twitter, and then at The Real Sean Carrigan on Instagram. And that's SeanCarrigan.
Sean, this was fun. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it, man.
That's a wrap. That's a wrap, everybody. That's a wrap.
Thanks for listening to the Man Cave Chronicles podcast.
I finally get my man cave.
You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at the MCC Podcast and our website, themccpodcast.com. Until next time.